Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new here, my name's Christina. I'm a naturopath, herbalist, life coach, as well as carnivore. And this is a space in which I interview carnivores and actually ask them the questions about carnivore, how they got there, all of the different things, and we find out some of that information. So join me in welcoming today's guest, who is Mark. Mark is a carnivore. I found him on Instagram and he was a little bit shy about coming on. So I was super duper excited when he actually said yes, because really most of us who are taking this plunge and creating this change are just regular folks that want to do better for our health. So welcome to the channel, Mark.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Awesome. So I'll start off with some really easy questions. And one of them is, how long have you been carnivore?
I started carnivore, I'm going to say around about December the 1st, 2022. So 5 months. Yep.
So I started in August 2022. So I'm only a little bit ahead of you, about 4 months ahead of you. So I'm curious then, like, what took you to that place of going carnivore? Because it's not really your everyday diet. It's not like, let's just cut out the sugar. It's a little bit more in depth than that. So what took you on that pathway?
To be brutally honest, I was watching YouTube one day and I just fell down the rabbit warren that is YouTube and stumbled across Nina. I can't pronounce her name. I've got her book here that I've just started reading. Nina Teicholz.
Yep.
And The Big Fat Surprise. And it was a video that sort of kept popping up in my feed. And I was, I'm not interested in that. And I eventually watched the whole thing. And I thought to myself, hold on a second, there's something here that, just sort of made me realize that we weren't being told the truth, I guess. I've always been pretty big. On and off, I was at my biggest in the middle of the COVID lockdowns, got to about 135. And I was seeing myself in photos and I just didn't know what to do. Everything I tried, I just couldn't get any results. So I thought, well, I'm going to try this. And I did. Yeah.
Awesome. So much of that resonates for me because I too have had a weight challenge for most of my actual adult life, at least. And, I'm curious as to, because you said you've tried other things before, what have you tried? What did you give a go?
I reckon in my mid-20s, I was living overseas in London. And I guess I was probably, I didn't have a car. I was walking a lot and all that sort of stuff. And I was quite big then. And I just noticed weight falling off. I didn't know why. So I started doing some running. And I got down I was in my mid-20s. I got down to about 85 kilos. So that was probably the lightest I'd been for a while. And then, fast forward to probably around about 2009, 2010, I was getting big again. So I thought I'd just start running. And I did couch to 5K. And I did, I remember it was about 8 weeks and I lost a lot of weight back then. I got down to, I couldn't get below 100 kilos. I was right on that 100 kilo mark. But as soon as I, knees and stuff sort of start to ache and things like that. And as soon as I stopped doing that, it just piled back on again. So then I thought, okay, I won't run, I'll cycle. So I started riding a bike and I rode a lot. I was riding to work 36 Ks each way. I was riding a lot on weekends. I actually started a cycle group with my local community and we had probably 10 or 15 different riders. We would ride on the weekends, 100 plus kilometers. And at the same time, we were stopping at the cafes, having coffees, having donuts, sausage rolls, sucking on the little packets of, the gel packets to keep our energy up, just pumping sugar back in. So no matter what, I wasn't losing weight. Lost a little bit. I think I got down to probably about 110 kilos, but I was still, could not get my weight down. That's because of how much sugar I was pumping into my body. So yeah. So that's my things that I've done. Bit of running, bit of cycling. Never really been, that conscious of what I ate. I was always, that calories in, calories out type thing, burn off more, but it just never worked. Yeah.
I love that because, I did the couch, what is it? Couch to
See the-
5K. Yeah. C to 5K. I did that as well. And I ended up having to give up because I got shin splints from it. Like my shins were I couldn't walk at the end of it. I'm just like giggling as I'm hearing you say that because I'm like, yep, I did that one too. And I love that you were like cycling and at the same time you just kind of like pumping back in the sugar. And that for me brings up a conversation that I've just had with my carnivore support group, which was, because a lot of the people that I work with is women, and there is this mindset for women that I've just got to exercise off the food that I'm eating. So if I want to eat that Snickers, this is how much exercise I have to do to counterbalance it. And it's just interesting to see them start to move out of that mindset and that philosophy of it's not this calories in versus calories out. It's more of an algebra sort of scenario versus a plus versus minus sort of additional sort of mathematical equation that we've been taught to believe that it is. So I'm curious for you, like when you made that switch to carnivore, like was there something in your mind that went carnivore versus high fat, low carb, or keto, or just trying to increase your fat? Was there something that made you go carnivore first, or did you progress through some of those?
No, I went straight carnivore, cold turkey that day. Because what red-blooded male doesn't like beef, bacon, eggs, and butter as a diet? So, I just thought I'm just going to try this, and listening to her talking about all that sort of stuff, I just thought, there's something here. I didn't know what it was, but I just thought I'm going to give it a go. My wife thought I was mad. You're going to die, but I was on blood pressure medication. I was on 2 tablets a day, and I'd been on that since about 2018. I got diagnosed with that. And it was only because I changed jobs and went for a medical. Yep. And during my medical, they just wanted me to stop the medical straight away and go straight to a doctor. That was that bad. Yeah, I was that high. And I was like, no, I can finish this. I I do all sorts of stuff all day. I'm fine. But no, I went to the doctor and straight on blood pressure medication. So for me, it was those sorts of things. It was more about that that health side of thing that was in the talk that Nina did that made me realize maybe I can fix some of these things, because I was told I would never be off blood pressure medication ever again. Yeah. So I went cold turkey that day.
So I'm curious, where's your blood pressure now?
I'm completely off the medications. My blood pressure sits probably around 135/85. I test it every single day. So completely off the blood pressure medication. Had to go off I reckon I was no more than a week into carnivore, and I thought I'll go and get my bloods tested. And I actually, while I was there, I said to the doctor, I need to be off some of this medication. I'm getting too faint. It was literally within a week. And he said, when I showed him what my blood pressure was, because I have the blood pressure machine that records it, he took me straight off one tablet. And then it was probably a month. Within a month, I was actually taking myself off the other tablet, testing. And when I was high, I would take the tablet. And I've got to the point now where I've weaned myself completely off them. Don't need them anymore. Yeah, so that's can't wait to go back to the specialist and say, what was that about me not being off these meds? So yeah, that's great.
I always find it really interesting when I have clients that go back to their doctors and like things are reversed, that there's 2 types of doctors generally, and there's probably more, but I'm generalizing. There's one that's like, great, done, whatever, spontaneous remission. And then there's the other that will say, so what did you do? Because I would be the other that would be like, what did you do? Like, so I can help other people with this. I can tell them what to do. But the way surprises me when they're just not even interested. They're like, must have just been a misdiagnosis, spontaneous remission. You got rid of some fat, and that's really what's fixed it. And it's all the carrot juice.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, he sent me off for blood tests at the time, because I asked for the blood test, and I came back and my eye and my ferritin was through the roof. And I said, it's probably because I'm carnivore. I'm just eating all this red meat, and so he actually sent me off to a specialist. So it was about the 7th of December that I saw my doctor and got the results back. And then it was the 31st of January when I got into the specialist and had my second lot of tests. And I was 349, so it almost halved.
Wow.
And then I went back for another lot of tests end of March, and I was down to 137, and every other blood marker that he got me to test at the same time was absolutely spot on. And he said, I can't believe how much it's changed in that short amount of time. He said, I'm normally seeing people for years and years and years. And he said, I don't want to see you for another 6 months because, you know, the way it's working, you don't need to be here. So I've got another appointment in 6 months' time just to see how it's tracking. But, you know, I'm amazed at the turnaround. Blood pressure, my blood results, everything's fantastic. Yeah.
That's really awesome. And one of the encouraging things about that is that I often see a lot of guys who've got who have been diagnosed or have thought that they have hemochromatosis, which is essentially too much iron in the blood.
Yep.
And one of the things that I'll often tell them is it's really about the liver. Like, the reason that you've got too much iron in your blood is because your liver's not able to process all the waste product and byproducts. And when we get out of the way, when we remove all of those plant toxins and all of the other garbage that's in our diet, we actually allow our liver the space to actually shift and move these things. And so that buildup starts to actually come down. But it flies in the face of conventional medicine. Like, conventional medicine says, no, the only way to get that down is for you to go donate blood, or for us to remove all the meat from your diet and all of that type of stuff. So your results there are really, really positive and encouraging for other men who are going through that type of thing as well. So you mentioned as well that your wife thought you were crazy. What does she think now?
She's lost 17 kilos on Carnivore. She joined me about, I reckon it's 3 or 4 weeks in. Yep. So we're both doing it together now. Yep. So she's a convert as well. So she's doing really well. Yep.
That makes life so much easier when both are doing it together.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. No,
my
we're
husband's
both
kind of half there, in the sense that, like, he really likes meat, but he also likes cake as well. So he likes a steak, but if there's cake around, he'll eat that too. But yeah, continue.
I used to work in the hospitality industry as a chef. And when I first met my wife, she was a meat and potatoes girl. And I used to always say, where's the veggies? Where's the salad? Where's the veggies? Where's the salad? And now I get that rubbed in my face all the time. I told you. So, yeah, it's come back to bite me. But yeah, no, we're both seeing huge change. Between the two of us, we're probably close to 40 kilos lost. Yeah.
Congratulations. Well done.
Fantastic. Yeah.
That's super awesome. So, as I mentioned earlier, I found you on Instagram. Like, you know, I just went and started to look for different carnivore groups or pages as well for inspiration, because, like, I like looking through my feed and seeing people do meat well. So that's where I found you. What was, like, when did you start your page or your channel?
I've got a photography channel or page, Instagram page, that I, you know, have always sort of used for years. And when I went on Carnivore, I thought to myself, I'll start putting it onto. I didn't want to muddle the two, I guess, but I also wanted to two things: track what I was doing for myself, but also be sort of accountable. You know, if I'm putting it out there, then I've got to keep it up with it. I thought it would have been harder than I initially expected, but I've found it very easy. So now it's sort of just, I'm the same. I like flicking through. I've got a whole heap of people that I watch and see what they're talking about and what they're doing. And, you know, it's not like you go on there for too many recipe ideas. It's pretty easy to cook a steak and fry an egg. But I guess it's a way of sort of finding that community, because you are sort of a bit of alone out there. And to be honest, we haven't really told anyone about it yet. My parents know. None of my wife's family know. We're keeping it pretty quiet because when we do get to, we have catch up every now and then, and we're sort of going to surprise them with so it's a way of sort of not putting it on our Facebook feeds or anything like that. Everyone sees it, and and then we'll be able to say, well, have a guess how we've done this. Go eat a steak.
I love it. I love it. So it's going to be kind of like this big secret reveal in some ways,
Exactly.
like at the next family gathering. Have you got one coming up? Like, is there one?
Yeah, we have in July. Yeah. My
So are you
sister-in-law
gunning for, like, how much can we get off before then? Or
yeah, this morning I was sitting there thinking, I've worked out I'll probably lost about on average 4 kilos a month. Yep. It's like 2 months away. I'm thinking, okay, I'm about 107 now. I'm thinking I might be able to get into the double digits by July if I keep up the 4 kilos. So that's where I'm aiming for. It's a 60s theme, so I'm going. I want to go in that super tight sort of John Travolta type 60s stuff. So it'll be even more noticeable. So I've got to work harder. I've got to get that 8 kilos off. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, for men, it's probably a little bit easier. The testosterone helps for your wife. The estrogen fluctuations will kind of slow that and move it around a little bit, but you'll probably get there. Chuck in some muscle building activities. That will really burn it down.
Yeah. We're both. Oh, sorry.
You go.
We had a gym open probably about 1 kilometre away from here. I would say maybe 3 months ago. So I've never been to a gym in my life, and I thought it's so close. We've got to give it a go. So we've joined the gym. We're getting programs. We're doing a lot of weightlifting and stuff like that. So building muscle. It's been fantastic. We go 3 to 4 times a week. So really seeing some results there as well. Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
It's making a big difference.
So being a chef, like I have this theory, right, that in many ways that when it comes to vegetables, we've learnt to cook them in ways like by adding lots of flavor into them and adding lots of things to them. And everybody's got all these memories of like, this dish that mum made that had all these vegetables and rice or whatever in it. And I'm like, I wonder if it's really just all the flavoring we packed in for something that doesn't have a lot of nutrition in it to make it appealing to us.
Could be. Yeah. I mean, I guess, chefs like to keep things pretty clean, but they also like to keep, they want that flavor and stuff in there as well. So yeah, often you'll be adding things, mixing things together and trying to get a flavor that you're after. So yeah.
I wonder, have you brought your chefing skills to Carnivore? Like, do you cook the steak like super awesome? And do you fancy with any of it?
Yeah, I like, we really like that restaurant quality char. We like that black char on the outside and nice and red in the middle. So, we sous vide, we do, we've got an Otto Wild grill that we bought recently, which gives us that real good char and stuff like that. We've got the old, or the Bluetooth probes for the temperature and all that sort of stuff. So, if you're going to eat a steak, you want to have a good steak. So that's what we do. Yeah.
It's so right. Like I know that in one of the Facebook groups that I was in the other day, they literally put a photo of their dinner, which was like this steak, and it cost them $120 to get this steak. And they're like, I feel so dissatisfied.
Yep.
And I'm like, I totally get it, because I could make that steak really nice at home.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I get very disappointed when I go out for dinner. We went out just recently for my daughter's birthday and paid some pretty top dollar for steak and was very disappointed.
Yeah.
And we often go, oh, do you want to go out for dinner or find somewhere to go for a steak? And say, well, we can make it better at home. So we'll just go buy a better quality. Yeah, go and buy a better quality cut this time round and go for that ribeye. My birthday's coming up soon, so I said I want a tomahawk or a ribeye roast.
For my birthday, I did a tomahawk with like prawns and a couple of other bit of seafood as well. So I was like, surf and turf. I'm just gonna I'm not eating until I get to this tomahawk steak.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
I couldn't finish it. It slayed me. It won, but I had a good go.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as well, like what type of challenges have you found along the way? Like, have you had some stumbling blocks, some issues along the way? Has there been anything that's been hard for you in your journey so far?
Probably the food for me is pretty easy. You know, I like eating the meat and you know, butter and stuff like that. I think my biggest probably challenge is alcohol. Now, I like having a beer or, you know, a glass of wine or something like that. So we've definitely dropped how much alcohol we drink. You know, we could smash a couple of bottles on a weekend, no problems at all. So we're reducing that down quite a bit. Probably having 1 or 2 in a week, glasses, you know, but that's probably my biggest thing. And I guess for me, I don't see any slowing down in weight loss or anything like that. You know, it's still pretty steady. What I've noticed mostly is the head fog the next day, you know, and you can just have one beer and you're, you know, that head fog is back, and it's like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I should have learnt last time. So, but
was it worth it?
I think, yeah, that's right. And I think it's that social aspect. You know, you tend to have people around food and drinks and stuff like that, and sort of getting out of that habit is probably the hardest thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious, any tips for anyone else who's like, oh, you know what, mate, that's my issue too. I really struggle to let go of some of those. Any tips for them?
What I've done is I've actually moved to whiskey because I've heard it's a little bit cleaner, if alcohol can be clean in any way. But what I find is I'm not drinking a big glass or something like that. I can sit on a shot of whiskey for an hour or so and just sip away, you know, pretty easily on that. Sort of still get that sort of feeling like you're having something, but you're not filling your stomach up full of whatever else that might be in there. You know, I don't really know if there's a certain amount of, I haven't looked, you know, sugar levels or in, you know, the amount of glass of beer compared to a shot of whiskey, but I'm finding that's an easy way for me to do that. But I'm just trying to, you know, I've got my water bottle with me all the time with my electrolytes, and I try and use that as much as possible.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's pretty significant. I think it's something like 40 grams of carbohydrates per like a can of beer, off the top of my head. But whiskey is pretty much like sugar-free in the sense that your spirits are, which is why, you know, I would recommend as well that if anyone wants to drink, that they go for the spirits, because at least it's, you know, it's not going to be hitting the insulin, and it's not going to be pumping up some of those glucose markers as well. And I feel like you feel it a bit more. Like the inebriation of it, you kind of feel a bit more. I think about it like, you know, when I have clients that like, I just can't give up chocolate. Like my advice to them is, then your rule is you have to buy the most expensive chocolate. And then eventually they end up giving up chocolate because, like, you know, they start to wean themselves off because it costs them so much to buy chocolate. The same with alcohol.
No, that's right. I actually tried some 98% cocoa chocolate probably about 2 months in, and I found that sweet.
I keep telling people that your taste buds change as well. Like,
oh, absolutely.
I know when I first started, like, we eat probably a lot of meatballs in our house, or patties with, you know, we would usually have them with maybe some onion and maybe some herbs in them. But now I am like, and I'm sure people look at me and go, what is she on? Where I'll just like, I will buy the mincemeat packet, squish it into a patty shape and cook it. And then I'll add salt and butter on top at the end. I don't need anything else. This is my favorite. Right. Go away.
Yeah, that's right.
Have you noticed those things for yourself?
Yeah, my daughters, I've got 2 teenage daughters, 16 and 13, and they'll still have, you know, it's amazing how they're not doing carnivore or anything like that, but because we've eliminated all the sugars and all the chips and all the, I would smash packets of biscuits. You know, I walk in the supermarket now, I just walk past those aisles and think, doesn't even bother me to see them anymore. But so they'll still have, so we've got rid of a lot of that out of the house. So they're not eating as much of that anymore because we're not. But they'll have the occasional thing here and there, and they might have what's an example, a drink or something like that, and I'll say, oh, let me just have a little sip, and it's more for me to see how much I've changed, and the amount of sugar and sort of that flavor that you were so used to, and now I can't even stomach it. I say to them, I can't work out how you can eat that stuff. It's a big change, huge change. Yeah.
I'm with you there. I have 7 kids, and mine, like, really mostly they are probably about 80% carnivore. But when they have their own money, they're allowed to spend that on whatever they want to spend that on. And, it's interesting to actually see that most of them are just starting to choose carnivore snacks as things that they're starting to spend their money on. But every so often they'll go in and they'll buy a bag of lollies, and they open it up and it's like, poof, that smell is like... Maybe it's because I'm like a sugar junkie, but like, I can smell it a mile away, and it's just so potent. And I don't know that I smelt it like that prior to actually removing it from my diet, but man, like I can taste it just from the smell. And it's like super sweet.
I'm surprised I was able to do it because I had the biggest sweet tooth. I was just a sugar addict. And going cold turkey, I thought I might struggle a bit, but I just can't stand it anymore.
So I'm curious then, was there anything, like, did you do anything? Because for me, when I have had a couple of times, so at Christmas I had a pavlova for Christmas dessert, and that like sparked off sugar cravings for me like no tomorrow. My strategy is whenever something like that happens, I eat my way through it. So I like get the like most tasty food and make myself so full that there's no way I could fit in any sugar, because I'm just like, oh God, no food, no, go away. Do you have a strategy, or did you have stuff that you use to help you kind of get over that and break through that?
I think I find like I did the same thing for Christmas. I'd been carnivore for about 4 weeks, and 3 or 4 weeks, and I decided, because I love Christmas. My grandfather was American. He was a cook in the US Army, came out to Australia, and I remember he would put on these massive spreads, like that American type spread. So we always had big Christmases, and I was determined I'm having plum pudding, I'm having pavlova, having all the meats. I didn't touch any of the veggies. I had all the meats, but I'm having plum pudding and pavlova, and I couldn't eat it. I when I try and eat it, it's just so sickly sweet that it's like my body just says, no, don't eat it, which is really a big change, because I would have eaten the whole thing before by myself without even thinking about, give me the whole plum pudding, everyone step away, it's mine.
Yeah.
So no, I think for me, whatever the change has happened, it's instantly I put it in my mouth. I just think, no, it's not for me anymore. So
yeah. I love that. I'm curious, like, did you find that there's been any mental shifts for you in this change?
Oh, huge. I struggled during the COVID lockdowns. We were in Melbourne. We've since moved to Ballarat. Yeah. We've since moved to Ballarat. And part of moving to Ballarat was to get out of Melbourne. But I really struggled. I think I had some sort of depression. I'm sort of one of those people, just, what do they say? Keep calm and soldier on, or whatever it is. But, I had pretty stressful job at the time. And just all that stuff just weighed down on me, and I couldn't get out of it.
I'll just add that for a lot of my, I work with a lot of people from Melbourne, and many of them have got some post-traumatic stress disorder from that whole lockdown and all the things that actually happened during that period of time. But they didn't necessarily recognize it as that's what it was, because, didn't we all go through this? Well, this is pretty traumatic and it's pretty stressful. And I don't know that a lot of the rest of the country really understood what Melbourne people went through. Even, if they were happy about the situation, like, it still altered your life so dramatically. that it did create a lot of traumatic stress for people that, you know, you kind of have to mentally recover from.
Yeah. And I really struggled for a long time. And what I've noticed now, I've changed jobs in the last few months, and it's pretty stressful changing jobs and learning, you know, what your new role is and stuff like that. But I have this new sort of sense of I can get it done. You know, it's nothing sort of stresses me out much anymore. My wife says I'm less stressed, I'm less wired, and all that sort of stuff. So I see a huge change in my mental, you know, just my frame of mind and all that sort of stuff. You know, I'm a lot calmer. Things just like roll off. What do they say? Water off a duck's back. You know, that's how I sort of see it these days. You know, whereas before I would be just climbing the walls. Yep. Yeah, and I don't think I made it very pleasant for people at home when I'm like that, and you know, everyone's walking on eggshells around me and stuff like that, because you know, I'm bringing things home, or you know, working from home for 3 years and things like that. Just working in this same office together, and you know, if I couldn't handle noise and things like that. You know, it's that sort of. Whereas now it's, you know, completely different, complete change in mental state for sure. And that's just another benefit of going carnivore. You know, things are so much more stable. Yeah.
I'm curious because you mentioned your girls, like how have they coped with the change?
Because
you changed and then your wife changed.
Yeah.
How have they coped with that?
My girls are, you know, they see us losing the weight and stuff like that. That they've said to my wife that Dad's calmer now and more relaxed and stuff like that. They don't often say too much about, you know, what we're doing, but my wife just the other day picked up a 20-kilo bag of wood for our wood heater and handed it to my youngest one and said, "Hold this. That's how much weight Dad's lost." And she goes, "Oh, I can't believe it. Where did he have it?" So, you know, things like that, you know, but they're helping me pick new clothes and stuff like that, because I haven't got any style apparently. So so things like that. It's great. Yeah.
I love it. So I'm curious, you mentioned a little bit there, but have you guys talked to them about why you're doing carnivore? Have you talked to them about plant toxins or any of those types of things, or you've just kind of left it?
No, we talk all the time. You know, we talk to them about, you know, every time they're eating something, I say, "You're eating poison, you're eating poison," you know, just joking around with them. But I think for me, we've always sort of raised them to be quite independent. And for me, you know, if they choose to go the way we're going, then all you know, that can be their decision. If they choose not to, that's their decision. But I think they're at an age at the moment where they really see the changes going on with their mum and dad. And I feel like they might not do it now, but when they're in their 20s or 30s and they might be gaining weight and stuff like that, they're going to say, "Mum and Dad did that back then." Instead of going down, you know, do they do Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or man shake or lady shake? What, you know, we tried all of those sorts of things. Yep. Nothing worked ever. Now, I looked at man shake recently because we were on that before carnivore. And sugar, the amount of sugar, it's like you're just putting it back in. So no, but for me, it's showing them an example at the moment that they know they can see is working for us really easy. Yeah.
Yep. I love that you talked about the man shake there for a bit, and it just reminded me that the UK at the moment are trialing. They're running a research study at the moment where they've got diabetic patients on shakes. So these patients only have green shakes that are basically protein powder and sugar in this shake. They don't get to eat any food. They only get to have these shakes, and they're about 800 calories a day. And that's what they're giving them to reverse their diabetes. And I'm sitting there going, and here's me reversing diabetes with steak. I think I'd rather the steak than
absolutely
the shake.
Any day. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
as well, because you've talked about Nina and her video, and now her book has been created a big impact in your life, and now of course your wife's life, and anybody who follows you on social media and goes, maybe I could give it a go too. Was there any really big things in there that were just like eye-opening moments for you, that were just like, why haven't we been told this information?
I think for me, just the deceit sort of thing that went on with this Ansel Keys, the doctor who sort of came out and said, low fat and all that sort of stuff, and bullied his way into sort of saying, getting on all these committees or whatever and pushing this thing. And I think there was one point in the video or somewhere I've seen along the line, back 80 years ago and stuff like that, there was nobody who was obese. It was only maybe 2 or 3% of people that were obese. And you sort of think, I remember my grandmother having the lard on the kitchen bench after the roast and all that sort of stuff, and all those sorts of things, and eating meat, and that sort of was that light bulb moment for me, thinking, hold on a second, we're being told, and there is a graph in the book and in her thing where you can see the amount of all the high fat and all this, all the stuff we're being told not to eat's going down, all the stuff we're being told to eat is going up, and yet the obesity and the sickness and all that sort of stuff is going through the roof. So that was the thing for me that sort of made me think, okay, what's going on? And it was pretty simple things to see and understand. And I just thought, okay, carnivore. Yeah.
I'll give it a go. I'm curious because I haven't read Nina's book and I haven't watched that video clearly. So I'm curious, does she actually talk about carnivore, or did she just start to open your eyes up to the fat?
I'm trying to think if she mentioned carnivore, because it was just, she must have mentioned carnivore in there, because I don't know how else I came across it. It was just one of those videos that sort of popped out and in my feed for whatever, and it just kept annoying me. I kept seeing it and thought, if I watch it and get it out of the way, it won't come back. But she must have mentioned carnivore in it. I only just got the book recently because I thought, I'm going to read her book. But whether or not I just sort of followed on from there and sort of worked out it was carnivore, or if it was in that video, it was a low carb. If you go to my Instagram, I've got the link to that video. It was that sort of profound for me. I've actually put the link to that video in my bio so that other people can see it.
Yeah, awesome. I'll put the link for that video too in the show notes, so that if anybody wants to go watch it, I'll put the link and I'll tag Nina in this so that she can see that her work has had an impact on somebody else as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
I love it. Now, I'm kind of curious about how this has impacted things like your social life. Like, has that really changed for you? Not really changed for you?
No, I don't think it's really changed for me. I have a few close mates and stuff like that who they're all fairly, skinny and all that sort of stuff. And I've always been that one sort of lagging behind, because we do a bit of camping and hiking and stuff like that, lagging behind, puffing and panting. And they've all seen the massive difference. They all think it's fantastic. I haven't convinced them to go carnivore yet. But they like a steak too, but whether or not they have it every day. But it starts a lot of discussion, because people know I've had a lot of struggle with weight for a long time. Definitely starts a discussion, and we're sort of keeping it secret as well. So it's only the ones that I see every now and then that we sort of talk about it. But I think the last sort of gathering of a lot of people was when I just started. So they hadn't seen much difference. And there was all the food was around, all the drink was around. I said, I don't want it. I'm drinking water, and if something meat-based came out, I'd have it. So I sort of talked about it. Everyone was really sort of interested in what it was, but they hadn't seen any result. So it's going to be very interesting when they see the result,
I'm curious,
How
like,
many? How many go for it?
we've got 2 months coming up. Are you actually planning on posting it on your Facebook page after that?
Yes, after that, my plan is to put it on there and say, look, this, before and after photos. I've got a few before and after photos on my Instagram as we're going along. But yeah, that's my plan. Just tell the world.
Big reveal.
Absolutely. Tell the world. Yeah. Yeah.
You'll be able to link them back to this video and say, hey, go watch me there as well.
That's right. Yeah.
How
Exactly.
exciting though. Like, I think that's super fun. Like, I'm traveling around Australia and I, of course, am connecting with people all over, people that I've worked with online, people that I've not seen for a really long time. And it's always a surprise when they actually see me in person. They go, oh, I didn't even recognize you, because things have changed so much.
Yeah.
Have you had any of those types of experiences so far where you've just kind of bumped into somebody?
Yeah, one of my old work colleagues, because I finished up my last job before I started Carnivore, and I had a few weeks off before I started the new one in January. So I bumped into a couple of work colleagues, and they're amazed at the difference. So yeah, it's definitely, it's a huge change for me. I don't have any of the chin or the guts going pretty quickly, and I'm putting on muscle. In fact, one of the guys who knows I've been on Carnivore for quite a while, and I will show him this video pretty quickly once it goes up. Last weekend we had a bit of winter sun, so I was sitting on our balcony, just sitting in the sun, trying to get some of those sun rays, and because I'm reading a lot about that at the moment as well, and how good it is for you. And he messaged me, and he said, because he's gone to the gym for quite a few years, and he messaged me and said, oh, you've got some guns going there. I'm like, yeah, because I'm going to the gym and I'm eating meat. So yeah, and I hadn't even seen it on myself. I went back to when he sent me that message. I went back and had a look at the photos, and I thought, oh yeah, I actually am building some muscle. So
yeah. I don't either. Like, people will send me a comment and going, oh, I can see that you've lost weight in your face. And I'm like, really? I can't see it. And then I do a side-by-side photo and I go, oh, now I can see it.
Yeah. My wife sends me photos of myself back then all the time. And she'll take a photo. We'll be somewhere and she'll take a photo of me. Then she'll send me the comparison thing. And I'm like, gee, wow, I can see the difference. It's huge. It's massive. I can't. And I think, where did that 20 kilos where did it go? But it's, my fingers are skinnier. My, everywhere there was just fat everywhere. So it's just coming off in all spots, where when I was running, it was only certain, maybe my legs lost the fat, but I wasn't losing much of the gut and stuff like that. So whereas this seems to be, it's a whole body treatment, really. Yeah.
I'm with you there, because I've lost 40 kilos, and I've done weight loss stuff before as well, where I've lost from particular parts of my body, and not necessarily around the middle. It was like, my hands got skinnier, but nothing else did, or little bits and pieces did. But this is definitely a much more holistic, everywhere is losing versus just one area of my body is losing. So I'm with you there as well. So I'm curious, if you were to go back and talk to yourself 20 years ago, what would you say?
Eat a steak. Absolutely, yeah. Oh, I wish I'd known. I just feel like I've struggled for so long, and I was almost at the point of giving up, thinking I'm never ever going to change it. And I look at both my grandfathers and stuff like that lived into their 80s and 90s. And I felt like I was going to be the one that was going to turn that around, and I was going to, if I might not have even been here if I hadn't had that lucky discovery of blood pressure, because it was through the roof. I was in the high 200s and stuff like that. It was just ridiculous how high it was.
Yeah, and you weren't feeling it.
No, I wasn't feeling it. Didn't even know I had it. And I thought, I kept thinking to myself, I'm not going to make it to 80 and 90 they did. Whereas now, I've never felt fitter. I've never felt stronger. I've never felt so confident just in myself. I've got rid of, I used to, my kids used to find me when we were walking around a shopping centre or something like that because I'd cough every 30 seconds. It's like this asthma type cough.
Mm-hmm.
That's gone. Eczema's gone. All this sort of thing is just giving me more and more of a confidence boost that I'm on the right track. And I've still got, I've been doing it for 5 months. I keep thinking, what's the next 6 months? What's the next 12 months? What's the next 18 months, And I've taken 20, 30 years to put all this on. So I'm not in any great rush to get it off. I'm just going to keep ticking along, doing everything right, doing as best as I can. And I can, I'm hoping to live longer than they did now. Whereas before, I didn't think I was going to even get close. So, yeah.
I love that.
It's a game changer.
I'm curious because I'm looking forward to my 1 year carnivore anniversary. I'm about 3 months away from that. And I'm like, yes, I can't wait to get there. Because every month I do a post basically sharing how much weight I've lost and centimeters and what are my monthly tallies and all of that type of stuff. And I always end with a comment of not dead yet. Still not dead yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm waiting for the 12 months. I'm probably going to get a tomahawk steak, put some candles in it and blow it out and take a photo of doing that going, still not dead yet.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. I had one person at work who I was talking to because they offered me a lolly or something like that. We had a meeting. Yeah, do you want a lolly? No, I don't eat sugar anymore. And so we sort of got into a really quick discussion about it. And the first thing was, you're going to get scurvy. You're going to get scurvy. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. I've been doing it for 5 months.
Yeah. I love that question. Now. Well, I love that comment as well because it comes from a lack of understanding, and this, again, misinformation. We've been told, me as a naturopath, I've done, years of nutritional training. And in that, we get told vitamin C is only in fruits and vegetables. But, now, of course, we've got lots of good data that's come out and said actually all meat contains vitamin C and it's a non-heat destroyed vitamin C. Cooking it doesn't damage the vitamin C. If you take an apple and you cook it, you've gotten rid of the vitamin C. It's dead. It's not working anymore. And so I love how science is sort of slowly starting to catch up to some of the things that we kind of have known, but took a leap of faith on versus having the here it is in black and white before we leaped.
That's right.
So I'm loving that we're starting to see some of that come through. For anybody who's kind of watching this at home and they've been maybe thinking about it, toying about it, do you have any tips, strategies, advice that you would give them if they're just starting to think about going on this type of journey?
My thing would be, and I say this to people when I talk to them about it, just give it a go for 30 days. Just if, 30 days is not going to change anything that radical. If you're a bit worried that it might not be beneficial for you or anything like that, try it for 30 days. That's what I said to my wife, just give it a go for 30 days. See how you go. If you don't like it, then just go back to whatever else you want to try. But if you haven't seen a change in 30 days, just, it's almost, I don't want to say guaranteed, but the change for me in that short amount of time was huge.
Yeah,
I'd just say, just give it a go. Yeah. Eat whatever meat you can, nice fatty meat, try different things. Some people say, it's too bland just having beef. Then, have a bit of beef, have some chicken, have some lamb, mix it, put all of those together, mix it up. Try different cuts. That's one of the things I'm doing at the moment, experimenting with different cuts, experimenting with different ways of cooking it, slow cooking, especially in winter. Everyone loves a stew or that sort of thing. Just experiment with the way you're cooking it as well. It doesn't have to be a steak in a pan every single day. Slow cook some tough cuts and mix some butter in with it, some salt. Yum.
So with that in mind, can we see a cooking channel coming from you?
Maybe I've actually thought it'd be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to start having a look at different things because there was a I saw something recently, and it was a carnivore dish, and it was I think it was like a meatloaf that had some sort of sliced meat type thing inside it, and it looked, look, it's that sort of attractive sort of looking dish that you sort of go, oh, actually, that's a little bit different. So I thought, maybe I should start having a look at some of those things that might be a little bit different, but still carnivore based. During COVID, we made a lot of terrines because we had so much time. So, and I was just thinking the other day, a lot of them were very meat based. They might just have a few herbs or whatever. And I thought maybe that's something that I might start doing as well, because it's a nice, easy thing that you can, you make a big slab of terrine, chop it up, take some to work, easy, quick things to eat on the run and stuff like that. So, I'm gonna start having a look at some of those sorts of things. Maybe start to put some of those sort of things in my Instagram feed, because I think it's something that's probably not out there.
Well, it isn't. Oh, well, I don't think there's enough of it, because there are some carnivore chefs out there, but I don't think there's enough of it, because I get asked all the time, people ask, how do you cook a steak? And especially with the vegan movement that's taken place and the vegetarians that are now coming to carnivore, they've not cooked meat for some of them 5-10 years. And they're like, help, how do I make this good? And so I think we could all do with some tips on how to make it better and how to use some of these tools like the meat thermometers and those types of things to get the benefit from that. I know I would definitely watch. And I can tell you, all the time when I'm putting people on carnivore as part of their nutritional plan, and they're asking, how do I cook a steak? And I'm like, oh, doesn't everyone know how to do that? It's kind of like back in the day when I would put people on pumpkin soup and they would say, how do you make pumpkin soup? And I'm like, oh, thought that was simple too. And it's usually the things that we think are the simplest and the easiest that people just don't know how to do, because we've had a takeaway lifestyle. We've had the just eat out, or we've just been eating vegetables or packet mixes or all of that type of stuff. So we've forgotten how to do it from scratch. But there was something else that you said that I wanted to pick up on, and this is something that I find really, really good as well, which was you started to talk about, sunning and getting out and getting some of those winter rays and those types of things. I'm curious, has carnivore led you to start to look at other things that are really beneficial for your health or challenging your health?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the sunning thing. I've got a bald noggin. I go out in the sun normally and I fry in 30 seconds. So, I'm reading a lot about people saying that eating fatty meats and animal fats and stuff like that actually helps you burn less. So I can't wait till summer, because I'll be close to 12 months on carnivore, and it'll be a very interesting experiment to absolutely. And I've never been someone to sit in the sun, and it was only winter sun last weekend, but I slept like a baby that night because I sat in the sun and I just laid back and took it all in and felt fantastic, and I really slept well. So I think those sorts of things I'm starting to look at. I have recently gone with a deodorant that is a natural deodorant, because I've always had tingling armpits and stuff like that from the supermarket type ones, and with the rest of me feeling better, that was sort of, I'm noticing this, so I've tried that, and that's working really well for me. So I'm trying lots of different things. I'm on tallow soaps now, which is helping, I think, also with the eczema. I've still got a little. It's probably the best way for me to describe my eczema at the moment. How it feels is it's like it's healing from the inside out rather from the outside in. I feel like so I've still got a few little sort of rough skin things on the outside of my ankle. So using those tallow based soaps and stuff like that, I feel is working wonders for me as well. So I'm trying a few different things, which is not me at all. I've never been into that sort of stuff. I never went to the doctor ever unless I was basically on my deathbed or forced to, like when I did that medical, and they said, if you don't go to the doctor now, you're probably not going to make it for another week. So it's a bit of a different thing for me.
I love it.
comes down to that mental health thing as well, where I'm just sort of feeling like, I can sort of, have a look at these sort of things and, feel better mentally and as that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think one of the things that I see is that once you get to the point of what you put in your mouth is no longer, you don't tolerate garbage anymore. Like there's just no tolerance for it. I can't even taste it. It's disgusting. I don't even want it anymore. It's almost like you don't have tolerance for garbage in other areas of your life either. And slowly but surely I see people just starting to, they'll go from one thing of going, I think I want to just change my bathroom stuff, and I want to change my toothpaste, and I want to change this, and like slowly but surely everything else just starts to kind of come into alignment. And I find that really interesting to kind of watch people start to, they wake up and they start to see all of these different attacks. Like, have you hit the fluoride button yet?
I was looking at water filters this morning. I'm thinking I'm drinking so much water now, I need to get a water filter.
Yeah.
So I was just this morning, I was looking at there. So I think this afternoon I'll go out and see what's out there.
If I was to recommend a water filter, I would say look for one that takes out stuff and then puts back stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Like that's the number one thing that I see as a clinical problem for people is that they get reverse osmosis filters or just filters. And water is meant to have minerals in it. And so we're taking out the chlorine and the fluoride and all the other garbage that we don't want, but we also take out the minerals and then we have to kind of put them back. So
yeah, okay.
If I was to get one, I'd get a system that filters and then replaces.
Okay, good advice. Good advice.
Either that or you have to put colloidal minerals in there so your bones and your teeth stay really strong.
Yeah. Okay.
But I love that just this morning you were looking at it.
Yeah, and then it's the toothpaste. That's the next thing. So yeah.
I love that, like what I see for a lot of people as well as myself is that when one person in the family makes a decision to give this a try, that it amplifies the benefit for everyone in the family. Like your girls are going to be benefiting from the water filter that you end up getting. They'll benefit from the changing over of soaps and products that are in the household. They'll benefit from all of those things. Even if they don't go carnivore, they're going to benefit from those things and feel better for it. And for them, that means healthier hormones, nicer periods, all of that type of stuff. For you, it means less PMS from the women in your house.
Changing the water filters tomorrow.
I love it, but I love that you're like the instigator, and this is what I'll say to a lot of mums that I work with, because they're often back to front where they're like, we've got to get the kids sorted, they're the most important people, etc., etc. And I'm like, if you sort you first, one, you have the energy to help them. You have the energy and the fortitude to do whatever it takes to actually help them. And you're leading by example. And that's what you're doing for your girls right now, is leading by example. You're showing them a different way. And whether they choose to go that way or not, it'll be something that will be in the back of their heads. Exactly. That's like, remember that time when Dad said vegetables are killing us? I'm feeling it now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the way I see it. It might not happen now, but I know down the track, if they need to, they'll know the answer. And that for me, this is the answer. There is no other answer. This is the answer. It just works.
Yeah. So this is a question I ask a lot of people, and that is this too restrictive?
Good question. I'm going to say no. Yeah, I don't think it is. I feel like I get more than I need from eating meat. I don't struggle with hunger anymore. If I'm hungry, go and have some bacon or an egg or something like that. I don't find it too restrictive. Probably the only time that I might struggle a little bit is when you go out to a restaurant or something like that, and you look at it and you go, oh, where do I start?
Yeah.
And there might be something. We went out recently, and everything had a sauce that was already basted on it or something like that. So I found that a bit of struggle. But you know what? If I have to do that for one day, it's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt because I'm back on track for the very next day. But I have been out before, and I've just said, can I just get a steak and 2 eggs? I'll pay full whack for all the veggies and the potatoes. You can keep them because I'm going to chuck them anyway. But just can I have 2 eggs? And that I've never had a problem. I've never had a problem with someone adding that to it. So, in fact, we went to one place, with a smoked meat place, and we said, can we just have smoked meats? We don't want the sides, the bread and the pickles and the mac and cheese and all that sort of stuff. And the waiter took our order and came back, and actually the chef came out. We've never had anyone do that before. I was like, that's fine. We're carnivore. We eat carnivore. We only eat meat. And he said, oh, I'll whack some more chicken wings on for you then. Fantastic. So win-win. We got more meat.
Yeah.
So, I think the first couple of times you can be a little bit nervous asking for something weird, but everyone's usually pretty accommodating. So these days they're used to people changing stuff on menus all the time. Yeah, I've got this allergy, I've got that allergy, so they're used to it. You just have to get used to it yourself, I think.
Yeah. I think it takes a little bit of courage the first couple of times to feel a little bit different and to ask for stuff. Like, I remember when we were leaving Tasmania to start our travel trip, I went out for dinner with my sister and we went to Hog's Breath Cafe. And basically I just went, what's the biggest, most delicious steak here that I want to eat? And I asked for that and how I wanted it cooked. And then they said, what do you want for the sides? I'm like, yeah, no, you can keep those. But can I have a thing of butter and a thing of sour cream? And they're like, okay, but you can tell it took them a little minute to try and figure out how do I put that into my little machine to make it say those things. But it came out and it was beautiful. It was delicious. Felt really good. I didn't have the temptation of chips or anything on my plate that were there because I was still early in carnivore at that point in time. So the temptation just wasn't there. And that was easy to go with from that point of view.
Yeah, I think we might need to start a new movement that there's tomato sauce, barbecue sauce, ranch sauce, and butter.
Yes, butter. Holy heck. I didn't know how much I loved butter until carnivore.
Yeah, absolutely. We eat so much butter. It's fantastic.
Same.
And all the different ones you can try as well. There's so many out there, we're trying all sorts, see which ones we like. Yeah, so.
And I think that's the thing is to keep it very experimental. I want to just jump back for 1 second, which was for me when I asked that question about is it too restrictive, I actually feel like personally I've got far more food freedom than I have ever had before in my life because the mental stuff of eating is completely gone and the physical health means more freedom in my actual life. So when people ask this is or say things like this is too restrictive, isn't it too restrictive, don't you get bored? My answer is no. But if you are getting bored, do some of what you're doing right now, which is experiment. Go buy every butter on that shelf and test them out and see which ones do you like. Do you like this one better with this type of meat and that one better with this type of meat? What would you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're experimenting with also, like I was saying before, the different cuts, the different ways of cooking it. And you made a comment then that I thought, we used to ring each other. What are we having for dinner tonight? I don't know. What's in the fridge? I don't know. So we went to the supermarket nearly every night of the week looking for something to eat. Now it's eating the old way was more restrictive because you had to think about what you were going to eat. Now you go in and go, oh, what's the nicest piece of meat here? What do I feel like? Oh, I'm going to have some chicken, whatever it might be. It's so easy to do. There's absolutely no restriction. You go to the meat section, you go to the butter section, you go to the bacon section.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge weight off your shoulders when you don't have to worry about, what's at home, what have we got? Do we need more of this? The amount of stuff we used to throw out as well. People say it's more expensive and meat's not cheap. I'm not going to sort of code over that, but when you're not throwing things out like we used to, the amount of food we threw out was ridiculous. So we've started trying to buy the bigger cuts of meat. Earlier this week, I got onto a local farmer who we bought a whole lamb from, So, it's another way of making it, stretch a little bit further. Bought the whole lamb much cheaper. So we're doing things like that as well, just trying to, cut costs where we can, buy it in bulk. Yeah.
I can say that for my family of 9 people, we don't spend more money on food eating this way, with my kids 80% carnivore, and me 100%, my husband maybe 90%. We don't spend more money on food than we did prior to that. Like when we were I literally, for me, had to force myself every fortnight to spend at least $400 to $500 on fruit and vegetables to know that we had enough food to go through the fortnight. If I didn't spend that much money on vegetables, I'd be at the shop every couple of days buying more stuff because we'd run out. And so I was like, no, we can't leave here until we've spent this much money on these fruits and vegetables, or I'll be back here. And I don't like being here in the first place. Whereas I probably would spend that on meat. And maybe not that much more. So probably my meat and my fruit budget now is just on meat and eggs. Like I just bought 10 carton of eggs. That will do us for a week. What was that? We had a deal because where we're staying recently was just in a local town. So they had local eggs and they were $3.50. So $35. I brought eggs for our whole family for the week, and it'll probably last us into the next week as well. And so, if I think about that, if we eat nothing else but eggs, we're all going to be full and satisfied anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
The other question I have for you is, are you a 1 meal a day, 2 meal a day, 5 meal a day? What are you guys?
So I was 1 meal a day, probably a month or so ago. And I did that for probably 2 months. I started to go back to 2. I'm starting to feel, I would say 4 days a week on 1 meal a day, and 3 days a week on 2. And it's probably a correlation to when I started going to the gym, I think.
Yeah.
Where I started to feel like I could easily do 1 meal a day, but sometimes I just feel like something. So rather than be tempted by something else, I just go and have some eggs or some bacon or whatever it might be. My wife, even though I say to her, you got to eat more, don't eat too little. She quite often can't get through a full steak. So I know I've got half a cold steak in the fridge at the moment. So there's always a snack there for me somewhere. So it's a very small. The second meal is usually pretty small. Yeah.
The way I usually do it is I make breakfast like the king's meal, in the sense I will have a big breakfast and I will force myself to eat it even when I'm like, oh, I could stop now. I make myself have a little bit more, and then I usually don't eat until about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it's something light at that point in time, and then that's usually it for me for the day. And my kids are kind of fairly similar as well. We don't really do lunch now. We really just do big breakfast, maybe something 3 or 4. If they're hungry, we'll do it at 3 versus 4. And then if they're still hungry, they might have something really light as a snack afterwards. But generally, I'm done eating by 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah, we're pretty much the same. We have our big meal at night. My wife usually doesn't have breakfast, but she'll cook some chicken skins for herself for lunch. Whereas I'll have the big meal at night, and I might have a couple of eggs if I'm going to have a second meal for breakfast. With some Element chocolate. So, yeah.
Some people love it. Some people hate the Element chocolate. I've had people that are like, oh my God, it's so disgusting. And then there are other people like, oh my God, I love it so much.
Yeah. At first I was like, oh, this is horrible. But we've, I think now that winter's set in, we're in cold Ballarat. So because I've got off coffee by having the chocolate Element. So, because I was a big coffee drinker. When I went to Carnivore, I went from lattes and all that sort of stuff to just a shot of espresso each morning. And now I've got completely off it by having these chocolate Elements. So, yeah. But,
awesome.
your taste change. I think I've got used to that flavour now. So, salty
absolutely. Some people I know like to make it into a mousse, by the way.
Oh,
So
really?
if you're thinking of getting fancy, you could try making a bit of a mousse or a panna cotta with
Yeah, I
it,
might do that. I'll have a look. Well, that's one
and
thing.
then share it with us all so that we
Yeah,
all know
that's
how to
right.
make it.
We early on, I was thinking, what desserts can we make? There's got to be some dessert. I looked at custards and stuff like that. Obviously, you don't have a custard usually without sugar, so I need to look into it. What can we do that's some sort of dessert thing? Because I think that's what people probably struggle with at the start.
Yeah,
Especially if you're a sweet tooth. I did struggle at the start, Tasmanian Meander Valley double cream. Oh, that's my. If I have to have something, that's my go-to.
yeah,
I usually raid the supermarket of their Meander Valley tubs. So yeah, if I have a vice, it's the double cream.
yeah, yeah.
But you got to make sure it doesn't have all the rubbish in it. That's about as clean one as I can get. And I think it's 53% fat. It's pretty high in fat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good old Tasmanian products. That's my
Absolutely.
hometown.
Yeah. I worked for a cheese company a few years back, and Pine Garner cheddar and stuff like that from down in Tasmania. Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the other thing that I do for my family is that I'll often go and buy, like, because I feel like we don't spend as much money on our food budget, I'll often spend it on just trying some of these things that we wouldn't normally try because they're like super expensive.
Yeah.
And so every so often I'll go buy like a fancy cheese for us to actually try and see what do we actually like, and let's get exploratory with all of these things, like explore what we can have, because different cows are going to make different flavored cheeses, goats are going to make different flavored cheeses, sheep's going to make different flavored cheeses. And what do you actually like? Because I think that most of us have just gotten into this habit of like, we eat cheddar, we eat this and we eat that. We don't really venture outside of those things because we have stopped exploring foods because we get into a pattern. And that's when that comment of like, is it too restrictive comes up. And I'm like, yeah, only if you're like boring and can't think outside of the box.
That's right, exactly. And even with cheese seasons, a cow eating summer grasses compared to a cow eating winter grasses where there's more water in it, you'll have different flavors and different consistencies and textures and stuff like that, even season to season. So experiment with that sort of thing as well. So go to a good cheese monger and find out which cheese is from a spring grass, and it'll be completely different. So little tips and things like that. Just experiment with everything.
Yeah. I think the same too when it comes to like, one of the things I see a lot of people starting to do is get a bit experimental with even just getting in and making their own hams and making their own prosciuttos and those types of things, and just exploring, actually trying the different varieties that are out there, and then actually having a go at making some of them. Like there's a real sense of pride when you've made something like that and you've spent all that time actually putting it together and like treating it almost like a baby to get to the point of then like trying it. There's this sense of pride in that, I think.
Absolutely. We make our own bacon. We don't do it as often as what we probably should. And but getting a nice piece of pork belly and curing it and then smoking it, and you get that sense of pride, and it's got good flavor. You know what's gone into it. Whereas we bought some fancy bacon and had it this morning for breakfast, and it was rubbish. It was horrible. We're spending big dollars on it. It's like, nah, we can make this better ourselves.
You kind of wreck yourself.
That's right. Which goes back to the steak. I could cook it better. Why go pay for an expensive steak at a restaurant when I can do it better at home? So
yeah. And there really is a lot of things that you can play with. Like when you think about it, like you could, for example, you can do like a straight pork belly that you've just done in the fridge with some salt brine and just that. But then you could take that to another level and actually smoke it. And there's always these extra things that you could be doing to these things and having a play with and exploring. And like that's, I think, where the fun comes in, when we bring back that childlike wonder and actually go, I wonder what this would be like if I smoked this, or I stuffed this with like this type of cheese, and like had an actual real play with those. Like
don't listen to what your mum said. Play with your food. Yep. Yeah, experiment. What could go wrong? You just try something new the next time.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You haven't lost, in
Yep.
my opinion. Especially if you've got chickens, because then you just throw it to the chickens and they'll eat it and turn it back into eggs for you.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And if it's dry and horrible, just add some butter. Mix it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So for anyone again at home that's watching this and they want to come and find you, where would they find you?
Instagram. My Instagram is Carnivore AU. That's the best place to find me at the moment until I let out the secret. And I might take on that suggestion and try starting putting something together, recipes and stuff like that might be a little bit more adventurous.
Yeah. But even just like watching people do things, like I haven't CVJ'd anything yet. I haven't done, I'm camping, right? So my equipment's pretty basic. It depends on what I've got at the local camp kitchen as to what I can do. But even watching people do that kind of excites me, that one day when I get back into a house that I'd like to give that a go, and seeing people try some of these things out is super exciting, and just revitalizes that idea of, oh yeah, I could give that a go and I could experiment with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. And that's what I sort of look out for as well. Who's doing what and how are they doing different things? Because, I want to try and see what other people are doing in this carnivore space. Even though I've probably got some skills that I probably should utilize and sort of put something out there. It's good to see what other people are doing, because otherwise, you don't want to be eating a steak in a pan every time. Brace some tougher cuts and try that, and especially winter things, and everyone wants that hearty thing that they come home being slow.
I just had broth this morning, so we cooked 2 chickens for dinner the other night, and there was leftover chicken, so I mixed that through an omelette, and then I took the bones and everything and I turned that into a broth, and I just had broth and butter, and it was delicious. It's surprising how tasteful that was, and I didn't really add much in the way of herbs or spices to it. It was basically salt, broth and butter, and my word, yum.
Great. Little things like that. Play around with it.
Good. Thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I can't wait to actually jump back on and watch some more of your stuff, especially if you start to put out some cooking things. I feel like, it's the mukbang type of thing where you watch people eat. Like, I like to watch people cook. Like, I can't make it because I don't have the equipment, but I do like to watch people cook, and it makes me feel like I'm almost a part of the journey.
No worries. Thanks for the invite. I was a little bit nervous at the start, but it's been good to have a chat. Absolutely.
It has been really good. I love these conversations, because ultimately for me, the purpose of these conversations is to allow people to meet real everyday people that are doing it, not just the big people who have got huge followings and so on, because sometimes they've been doing it for so long that it almost feels like the challenges that you have when you first start are almost out of reach, because they've forgotten what it's like to have that first month, or that first 5 months, or that first 6 months, or even that first birthday, and crossing those lines. Like, they forget some of those things because they're like 5 years, 10 years, 13 years into it. And that's why I like just to have real people, have real conversations, because ultimately if more people jump on this and give it a go, like you said, give it 30 days. You haven't really lost anything if you do it for 30 days.
That's right.
You haven't really done any major damage in 30 days. At that point in time, like, give it a go. And the more people I think that we can get, I actually think the healthier our planet will be from a mental, emotional and physical space. So thanks for coming on.
Totally. No worries. Thanks for having me.
Good.